the least densely populated area, so that's why you see a break in the northwestern portions of the pad as well as the eastern side, where we put breaks in there to let the sound out.
Okay. One other issue on sound, will range use bullhorns on the site?
No, there'd be no bullhorns for communication. Each operation has an emergency signal, but not a bullhorn type of notification.
Okay. Changing topics now, just a few more questions about the site itself. The access drive, what will be the construction materials for the access drive?
The first 50 feet will be paved. The balance of the access road will be a stabilized limestone surface.
And how will range address potential dust suppression issues?
Typically, water trucks during operations, especially because we have higher truck traffic, will run water trucks, and we also have some dust suppressants that are approved by DEP that will also apply.
And will range monitor the roads and avoid street sweeping and cleaning where necessary?
Yeah, absolutely. We have not only the workers that taking care of the well site, but we also have environmental folks that stop in and inspect those things.
What kind of lighting will be on the site?
It's just temporary lighting. There will be no permanent lighting, just for so light plants that just provide. There's lighting on the rig, but light plants that light up portions of the pad.
Will there be lighting at the guard station?
There'll be lighting at the guard station. The bulk of light that you see coming from those temporary light stands, and again, that's all directed downward and inward, trying to keep that light on the pad.
Will there be any permanent lighting on the pad once the wells go into production?
We will have there's no permanent lighting.
And I think you indicated already that Range has received what's called the ESCTP 2 approval from the Department.
William, time out again. Our court reporter lost internet again. Okay, we're good, Blaine, go ahead.
Okay, Carl, you indicated that Range had received this ESCTP 2, which addresses erosion sedimentation control and permanent stormwater management, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and then Range will also apply for individual permits from DEP for each well on the pad, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, has Range applied for any of those yet?
Not for Schultz Pit, no.
Okay, the changing topics again, the requirements that we've gone over so far under the ordinance are what would be called the specific criteria that are required under section 3 of ordinance number 9-211 for oil and gas development. Many of those requirements are very specific. They're setbacks, they're noise limits, etc. And some of the other criteria we've talked about. Others are more general, and under Pennsylvania law, the burden of coming forward with specific evidence on those is actually on those opposed to the application. Range has already addressed both the specific and the general comments in its compliance comments. But that being said, Range would like to present some additional information on some of what we'll call the general criteria, specifically the requirements that both the use will be harmonious with and in accordance with the general objectives, with a specific objective in the township's comprehensive plan, and will be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained so as to be harmonious and appropriate in appearance with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity, and will not change the essential character of the area. I think you identified in the previous hearing a provision in the proposed township comprehensive plan that's on its website, and is that are excerpts from that included in Exhibit 7?
They are, yeah, where we just, again, this was just I think a draft comprehensive plan, it certainly is approved. But we certainly took a look at it to see what it had recommended regarding oil and gas development.
Now, just before we get further, the township's current comprehensive plan, does it mention oil and gas at all?
It does not, no.
Okay. Well, what does, I think you honed in on what strategy 2C from the proposed comprehensive plan, and if you could identify, read the relevant portion of that as it relates to your testimony here today.
Yeah, the 2C states that the township review its zoning ordinance with an eye towards regulations related to oil and gas development, and develop a process for effectively updating its guidelines. The township should evaluate low-density residential areas to accommodate oil and gas in a way that reasonably serves the use and protects existing single-family residential areas. Low-density residential areas are a strong option because the impacts can be better mitigated through larger lots, greater setbacks, and more robust buffering.
If you could now, could you turn to Exhibit 8 and share your screen with respect to that?
This is basically a solid dark line indicating the township municipal boundary lines there, and with the Augustine identified, as well as the Schultz and the Connor Samuel discussed with the previous hearing. And as you can tell, this portion of the township is the lower density areas of the township. Is certainly a lot more densely populated to the south. So this particular area we feel is the appropriate place for siting these oil and gas wells.
Is most of the area north of Route 50 relatively rural in nature?
It is. It's mostly agricultural, but those things.
And is most of the residential development in the township located south of Route 50, and most of the residential commercial development at South Point located in the southern end of the township?
That's correct.
Is public sewage available in the vicinity of Mr. Schultz pad?
It is not new.
And what about public water?
We do have public water out here.
If you go to Exhibit 9 now. Now, you testified about this all previously in the Connor Samuel hearing, but we'll just touch on it briefly. Some questions have been raised about why more acreage couldn't be accessed from Augustine, and more generally why the range is proposing a total of 3 well pads. Actually, one's already under development, but adding 2 more. What is there a reason why range is proposing 3 well pads as opposed to 2 or 1 in this general area?
So there's certainly, we can drill fairly long laterals. Again, along these azimuths, basically set at the center of the pad, and we can drill along that azimuth for up to 20,000 feet, close to it in that area. We cannot swing out very far from the well pads. Typically, maximum 3,000 feet. It depends on the length of the lateral, but typically we would never swing out more than 3,000 feet from the pad. And as you can see, the distances between Connor Samuel and Augustine along that azimuth is getting close to 4,000 feet. So you'll have a number that will parallel each other. Typically, they're going to parallel each other, and you'll have multiple wells off Connor Samuel and Augustine where they'll meet I can drill down to the south and to the north fairly far. But I can't get that distance, again, perpendicular to that azimuth.
If you could go now to share your screen with Exhibit 10. Can you just describe briefly the history of oil and gas development in Cecil Township?
Yes, this exhibit what you're looking at is a depiction of the McDonald oil field and some other adjacent oil fields in and around McDonald and into the northern sections of Cecil and some of the areas where we're at with our gas development. The McDonald field was a very prolific oil and gas, and I think in the couple of years in the 1890s, it was actually the largest producing oil field in the world for a couple of years there. So significant oil and gas development has occurred in Cecil Township. And, you know, back to that sort of that harmonious, we feel that, yeah, this is, has been part of the history of Cecil, and that there's certainly some inconvenient times during the construction and development of these wells, but these wells will be producing for the next 30 years. It will be a lot like, you know, all the adjacent wells that are in the area around it.
Mr. Lucas, can I stop you for 1 second? Can you, since this is stuff that was already testified to at the beginning of the hearing, is there a way to incorporate it without going through all of this again? Just keep in mind that, you know,
Well,
you're eating enough time.
we would like to do that, although that would require anybody who is also a party other than range to consent to that, because were they here, otherwise an objection could be raised if they didn't have an opportunity to hear this and answer questions about it. I don't know whether the two individuals are present tonight. If they are and are willing to do that, we would be willing to incorporate the balance of Mr. Matz's testimony about exhibits 10, 11, and 12 in the record.
Oh, hold on. So Mr. Markovich is not present, Mr. Moninger is. 10, 11. The part where you talk about the history of oil and gas, Mr. Moninger, he agrees that, you know, it's already been heard, he's okay with moving on. What is 12? Yeah, and 12 is it's all the history of oil and gas. We've all heard this already, just in an effort to kind of move things along. Everyone, is everyone okay with skipping this?
The only thing is,
I don't think he can hear you. You're not unmuted. You have to unmute.
my screen.
All right, hang on.
Blake, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just under your introduction, under 14, you had mentioned a map. The binder does not appear to have one.
That was Mr. Supervisor, that was the map that was added dealing with standing issues that was shown on the screen and transmitted to the township. And because that was only introduced at the hearing on the 13th, the township has it, but it's not in your hard copy binder.
And that's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about sections 10, 11, and 12 moving forward. We're not even at 14 yet. We're just saying this history of production. I think, Blaine, everyone's in agreement that you can go ahead and move on from there. So if you want to skip to the next section after 12.
Oh, I mean, if I understand Mr. Moniker has no objection, the township has no objection, and subject to Mr. Markovitz having no objection, we would just move to incorporate the testimony of Mr. Matz for actually the exhibits, so it'd be exhibits 10, 11, and 12 into the record.